All right, so up, up, down, down, left, right, left, right. All right. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first round of LSR Group 2 action here on the new F1 24 game. As I also realize that I am not set up yet. So there is that and that, which are also rather important settings to have turned on. But yeah, still getting used to a couple of things, but good to have all of you here as we get ready to get underway with the first round here in Group 2 at Interlagos in Brazil. As normal, be your host for today, Vacant Haddock, one of the managers here for LSR, if you are new, as well as the main commentator here in Group 2. Of course, we had a good round of Group 1 racing yesterday. Ended up being won by Tano, by Yuki. But, very chaotic race, a whole bunch of, incidents that were large, but, nothing that was super tight, just a lot of tight racing, and it was really good to see. And, we could see even better racing here in Group 2 as through the couple of testing sessions that we had, there was some very, very tight wheel-to-wheel action and a bunch of drivers who could potentially have that shot at the Group 2 Drivers' Championship in a couple races' time. So Viperize will be the first to set a lap here in the full season for Group 2 as he comes out of the final couple of corners and blasting down into Turn 1 at over 200 miles an hour. Of course, you got to get on those brakes hard as you come down into Turn 1 for here into the Senna S. You get that drop downhill, really important to get that exit spot on as you make the run out of Turn 3 and down into Turn 4. Really also, very important to keep an eye on that rear right tire. That's probably the tire we're going to see a big issue with, is with 17-1 through the first sector for Viperize. A little bit wide. You can see a little bit of sparks shoot up from the Aston Martin going over the curve as his teammate of R. Stratton gets out of the way, but up over the top of the hill into turn number 6 and 7. Of course, some of the slowest corners on the racetrack here. And of course, turn 8 a little bit quicker despite being a bit tighter of a hairpin. And, not going to see a ton of overtakes through here. But again, if we see some side-by-side action up the hill, that could be very well carried through a bunch of these corners as he makes his way through Sector 2. It's a 51.4 for Viperize. And, of course, then it's flat all the way out of that final corner, all the way around to the start-finish straight. So DRS wide open. As we come to the line, recharge mode is on, but the benchmark is going to be a 108.1 from Viperize. That will be the bar everybody will be chasing. It's one of the McLarens to the line next, I believe, but I think Breakfast King did invalidate. Dechi 04 comes across the line next. He'll be second, so about 6/10 adrift of Viperize in P1. We got one of the... we got Huskies Kick Sauber coming to the line next. He'll slot in third for the moment. So we'll keep an eye on him. It's one of the Ferraris next to the line. Of course, Ferrari is reigning Constructors' Championships, and Calverley, still being a little bit on the newer end, is going to slot in fourth, a second adrift of Viperize. It's going to be one of the Red Bulls next across the line. It's Alcoholic Husky, not to be confused with Kick Husky. He'll slot in just ahead of Calvary by exactly 1/10, so still a fair ways adrift. Here comes his teammate that was one of the V-Carbs. That was Brian Vanberg just starting a lap, so we'll jump on board with the McLaren of Oreo Hafrican coming to the line next. Can he take the fight up to the top? No, he'll slot in 6th, so probably a mistake earlier on in that lap. R. Stratton, meanwhile, will make it a temporary Aston Martin 1-2, so a good lap from him. Breakfast King immediately splits that, though. He'll go second quickest. And Chimpimp, I think, was the car ahead of him that was just diving out of the way. And so after that first little exchange, seemingly a lot of cars already done. Guardianite is on an outlap. Will he So I don't think he's given Calverley a little bit a toe unless Calverley's going again. So I have to keep an eye to see how Guardian Knight can jump up the order, if at all. Jumping down to another, Formula Jonah. Of course, great to see him on track, as well as Speedy Gunner, who's currently in the pits, but they both did a great commentary of yesterday's race. Here comes Alcoholic Husky to the line again, potentially just getting ready to start another lap. He's currently sitting at a 1:12.6. Meanwhile, it's Brian Vanberg coming to the line next. He'll slot in P9. So again, 1:10.8. Probably a mistake earlier on in that lap, or just potentially having that extra lap to get those tires in the working condition that he wants. So we'll keep an eye on the V-Carb driver as he makes his way around Chimp Pimp with an invalidation. Guardianite 17110 through Sector 1, which I believe is right about Vaporize's time. We'll stay on board with the Ferrari, who looked to have a big lockup there as we made our way into turn number 10 there. Of course, through 11 and 12 now. We'll see what he comes across at 51.8. So we'll stay on board with Guardian Knight's Ferrari as we come up over the hill. Of course, I didn't have the chance to participate in any of the testing races, so it's going to be very interesting to see how a lot of this pans out. Guardian Knight to the line, that'll be 7th fastest, so it's currently Ferrari 7 and 8 as he slots in behind Alcoholic Husky. Brian Vanberg, meanwhile, up 7/10 on his lap. Alcoholic Husky to the line. He will pick up a little bit over a 10th, but not enough to push him up a position. Here comes Brian Vanberg in that V-Carb to the line, a 109.996. So definitely an improvement, but still not enough to grab him any positions. Chimp Pimp, meanwhile, down a 10th through that first sector on Vaporize's pole time. Of course, I don't remember that second sector time, but 52.4 through Sector 2, so we'll keep an eye on him as he makes his way through the latter half. Bartu Kutukalan, I believe, with a second out lap there. Here comes Chimp Pimp around the final corner and to the line. He'll go 10th quickest. It's a 109.5 from him, so we'll slot in behind Oreo for the moment. We'll keep an eye on him. Here comes Formula Joe to the line. He'll be 10th quickest, and I believe was the Red Bull, no, it was not the Red Bull of Alcoholic Husky. It was the second Red Bull of Speedy Gunner behind him. That was just getting ready to start a lap, so we'll keep an eye, see if he can climb up the order at all. And should be good. I'm just seeing if you can hear me or not. You can, we're good. Because I thought I just got pinged because you could not hear me. But yeah, currently as it stands with about 10:30 left to go, as one of the Red Bulls did run out of fuel there. Vaporize won by a comfortable 2/10 margin back to Breakfast King, so we'll go ahead and throw that on. Husky has a jar of dirt, so he may have taken a brief excursion off of track or found some rum as of right now. But there's your gap to the front, as we got multiple people thinking they're Jack Sparrow, even though they're very much not. But, especially up at the front, Vaporize and Breakfast King seem to be going to be the ones that are battling it out. We'll definitely keep an eye on everybody. Dechi here, making his way through Sector 2, was up in that first sector, so we'll stick on board as he's currently the highest driver up there, who is currently on a lap, of course, coming up to that second sector marker, and of course only one braking zone left to go. Down as he comes across that Sector 2 marker by a little bit less than a 10th and a little bit loose with the back end as he comes out of that final corner. But, of course, putting that power down, trying to use all the energy possible, and is actually going to dive into the pit lane. So doesn't see any improvement there. He'll dive into the pits with 9.5 minutes left to go in qualifying. Calverley, meanwhile, currently sits 8th. He got a 10th in that first sector. And, of course, you got the Mercedes diving out of the way. So the Ferraris are 7th and 8th right now, so in a comfortable spot, but of course they're going to want to improve, and Calverley being up over a quarter of a second through 2 sectors should help with that. Here he comes out of the final corner, so as of right now, he would slot in ahead of Alcoholic Husky in P6. Can he pick up anything in that final sector? DRS open and to the line, he will go 6th quickest, just behind Husky Gaming, but will slot in nicely into P6. I'm sure he'll be happy with that lap time, even if he wants a bit more. Meanwhile, a provisional pole sitter up through 2 sectors by about half a 10th. Going to stay really tight to that inside wall as he comes to the line, and he's going to extend that gap by about half a 10th. Breakfast King, meanwhile, also up half a 10th, but in the first sector, he's going to need a lot more time in order to try and get that. But we'll jump on board with Vaporize's Aston Martin teammate of R. Stratting. 6/10 down on his teammate, and is a bit more on a second outlap as it seems. So we'll pay attention to him, see if he makes a push at it. Breakfast King Still working through Sector 2, though. A little bit of traffic up ahead, so we'll see if he has to manage it at all. But as he makes his way through that tight right-hander, of course, fast left-hander, really important to try and make sure that back end stays planted as you come down the hill into the final corner. He's down, what is that, 100th. Ferrari spinning in front of him. I believe that was Guardian Knight. Or actually, that might have been Calverley with the spin. I cannot speak today. But here comes Breakfast King to the line. He'll pick up a 10th, so we'll close that gap with Viperize, but not enough steel. Provisional pull away. Yeah, as you scroll down the order, I guess, there's a couple of other drivers to look at. We'll jump on board with Emre, see where he's at as he crosses the line. Of course, we'll have to see. Armstrong complaining about a Ferrari impeding. So we'll have to see what happens there. Husky saying a quote that is wrong as Emre slots in 15th quickest, so we'll keep an eye on him as he seems to have a second go lap. A little bit of a lockup there through turn 1. But I, in fact, did defeat Penn State today, so fuck you. Oh, wait, shit, I'm live. Oh, well. Bartu Kurukan, though, with a good lap time to set him 5th quickest. He'll jump ahead of Husky Gaming and just behind Detchall there. But definitely keep an eye on that 3rd to 10th place and even blower spot. 3rd to 12th, separated by less than half a second. So that could be a massive fight as Eric, too fast for you, with a big lap there. He'll slot in P2 for Alpine. That lap a little bit out of nowhere here. So Eric with a great lap time to jump up the board. Stratting falling down a little bit as there's a big crash. Detchall into the wall, and that was Bartu who ran into him. Are we going to see a penalty here? Will the game hand out a penalty for that? Our stratting, I don't have Guinness on me today. Partially because I lost my ID, so I can't go get any, and I'm probably going to get carded. Otherwise, I totally would be happy to recreate that Australia incident. But a little bit of chaos there in that middle sector, but Eric with a great lap time, and could he be the one that is battling with Viperize at the end of the day for provisional pole position? I have to keep an eye on that. Another driver to keep an eye on is going to be Kendricks throughout this race. Very consistent driver, so we'll see what he manages to do. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on some of these other drivers. Detchall, I believe, on an in-lap. There is damage on that car. I assume there's probably damage on Bartu's car as well. Natty is not first because I don't know why. But Tank's lapper there as Bartu dives into the pits. We'll jump on board with Guardian Knight, who was, I think, believe slightly up on that last lap, but we'll see what he clocks in. He is down 4/10, so not really on much of a push lap. So jumping up to our stratting, he's coming out with 5 minutes left to go in the session, so we'll keep an eye on him. But yeah, we'll jump on board with Kendricks. Here he comes to cross that Sector 1 marker, a 17.5 for the Alpine as he makes his way through turn number 4. Again, a little bit wide, having to maybe get off the throttle a little bit early through there as now we come up the hill into turn number 6. Which is a corner where you could see some incidents today, especially depending on if drivers are bold and opt for that soft tire at some point during the race, as it can overheat very quickly, and we could see a couple of incidents at that uphill right-hand turn, just with those rear tires just given out. But Kendricks coming up to that Sector 2 marker, a 52.7. So the Alpine seemingly going very quick. Here comes out of the final corners, excuse me. But here he comes now to the line. He's going to keep it rather wide to the outside, so potentially looking at another push lap, seems likely as he slots in 17th, 1.9 seconds adrift, but we'll keep an eye on him. Stratting, meanwhile, on a push lap, so we'll jump on board with the Aston Martin and then jump back to the Alpine as we get towards the end of the lap. Stratting up a 10th through Sector 1. Again, you do really want to utilize all of that circuit. And so we'll have to see if he can join his teammate as a bunch of cars now starting to pile out on track as we have 3.5 minutes left to go in the session. But we got Stratting making his way through Sector 2. Of course, you want to try and take third gear through that tight left-handed hairpin and with a little bit of a lift. Of course, you got Albon and Hamilton, who had an incident back at that last corner that we just passed by. Of course, is that Glock of Stratting, though, up 4/10. He's flying through that middle sector and with a very clean exit. So we could see a really nice time here for Stratting. How close can he get to his teammate of Viperize? He's going to keep it tight. 3 minutes left to go in the session. Our Stratting to the line. Still only good enough for 4th. So only 2/10 back as Kendricks goes 5th quickest for Alpine. So he'll slide in right behind our Stratting and then have a big rear lock moment and end up spinning off a little bit. And he'll try and, I think, get out of the way. But everybody piling out of the pit lane. Stratting does not think he'll get another lap in or improve. So I have to see what happens there. But Kendrick's currently 5th. And everybody, again, piling out of the pits. You got Chimpimp. You got Jonah getting ready to start a lap. You got Oreo on an out lap. You got Alcoholic Husky just a little bit down through that first sector. But I believe is trying to recharge that battery a little bit. So we'll see what he crosses at that Sector 2 marker as our provisional pole sitter does jump out of the pit lane. Alcoholic Husky up 1/10.5, so certainly enough to gain a couple of positions. We'll see if he can get a really clean exit. Of course, going to be wanting to dump overtake here out of the final corner. Here he comes to the line. Of course, we'll have time for another lap. DRS wide open. Here he comes, and that's a 108.9. So we actually lost a lot of time in that final sector, so potentially deploying ERS a little bit sooner. Husky Gaming, meanwhile, in the infield grass, potentially getting Albon, but potentially also just trying to stay out of the way. Bartu's invalidated. Dechal is just about to start a lap. Kendricks has invalidated. I don't believe he'll get another lap in. Breakfast King, meanwhile, coming up to that Sector 1 marker, and he's slightly up on his first lap time, but not a very significant amount. So we'll have to see if see how much time there is to gain in the final 2 sectors. And of course, there is time for one more push if he elects to save ERS at some point during the lap and just try to be one of the last ones to get that lap in. Only I believe 2 drivers still in the pits, and that's Brian and Stratting, who does not think he'll get another lap in. Eric just getting a lap started. Breakfast King coming up to that Sector 2 marker. Where does his lap time clock in relative? He's up 1/10.5, so it's going to be close for Breakfast King to have a chance to set that bar, so he's going to push it. Can he pick up those last 8 thousandths of a second out of these final corners to try and get Viperized? DRS wide open, trying to keep it tight. Breakfast King to the line, only good enough for P2. He will slot ahead of Eric, but will not usurp Viperize. Eric, meanwhile, down 1/10.5 through Sector 1. He's not going to have a chance to get an extra lap in, so we'll keep an eye on him. Viperize, meanwhile, going slowly through that middle first sector, so he made a mistake early on in that lap, so he will not improve. Eric is round, so he will not improve either. Can anybody jump up the order? Bartu goes up to P6. Dechal, he's not on a push. He'll finish 5th. Kendricks is 7th. Husky Gaming is currently 8th. Let's see what he's at as we cross the Sector 2 marker. 3, 2, 1, and qualifying's over. Husky Gaming up 1/10 and change. He's going to run wide, though, and he's going to lose that lap time. That would have put him up towards Kendricks in P7. Calverley in the wall. Alcoholic Husky coming up to Sector 2. He's got 3/10 in the bag. Can he manage to convert where Husky Gaming could not? Potentially looking at a 7th place start or more, depending on just how much energy is left in the tank. Out of the final corner, the Red Bull driver currently sits P10. He comes to the line. He will jump up into P6. Can anybody fight him? Bartu up over into the wall, so he will not improve. Calverley is on a recharge lap. Oreo is done. Formula Jonas invalidated. Guardian Knight may be one of the only ones who can jump up the order now. He's got 3/10, but is recharging. He's going to keep it tight to the line. 6, 7, 8. The Red Bull teammate of Speedy Gunner is 14th. Guardian Knight will improve and will start 12th, and I believe that will do it. So it's Viperize taking the first pole position here in Group 2, and it'll be followed by Breakfast King and Eric, all less than half a tenth between them. And that will be your top 3. So we expect that we're going to see some very interesting racing in the laps to come. Of course, waiting for Jonah to cross the line, and then we'll wait for everybody to dive into the pit. But very tight grid, especially when you see that top 14 all separated by a second, the top 8 separated by just over half a second. So we should see some really, really great racing here this afternoon. So, of course, if you're watching live, definitely feel free to throw some predictions there into that chat box. Definitely would like to see that, and I don't believe we got any penalties in that. Actually, no, we did. Dachal did get a 5-place grid penalty for that collision that we saw. He spun in front of, I believe it was Bartu. So that means Dechal will drop down to 10th, I believe, and everybody else will get a bump up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So Calvary will start P9, and everybody will be up a spot. So should be very interesting to see. Of course, we'll check the race director for that penalty. Yeah, that is what it was. It was Dechal colliding with Bartu down at, I believe it was turn number 4 that caused that penalty. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we get ready to go here in Interlagos. And of course, 36 laps to come. So should be very, very interesting. Of course, we're just waiting now for everybody to get their settings ready to go. But of course, we'll have to see if Viperize can take pole. Of course, Viperize and myself were Group 2 Constructors Championships last season. So Viperize showing a lot of pace, but certainly going to be very, very competitive. And he'll have some people fighting him up at the front of the field. So we'll have to wait and see just what goes down. Of course, just waiting for that countdown timer now, which of course should be before too much longer. But yeah, I would expect as well, just based on the Group 1 action that we got yesterday, that I wouldn't be shocked to see a safety car or two. Of course, we do have formation lap returning this year as everybody starts to make that first getaway, which gives us a chance to check out tire strategy for most of the grids. The top 4 all looking the same way. They all opted for mediums. Meanwhile, 5th down to 8th, all going for the soft compound tire. You get a really good start on those, but they do start to really fall off and struggle with temperature. And we'll start to see that happening probably around lap 7 or lap 8. So definitely keep an eye on when that crossover point occurs, because we could see some soft to medium here around Interlagos. If we do say green the entire race, we could see medium to soft as well be a potential option. Though, 2-stop I think is very likely, considering the amount of safety cars that we could have. Another couple of cars to keep an eye on. Oreo African and Speedy Gunner opting for the hards off the line, so potentially banking on a later safety car, so potentially around that pit stop window and some of the chaos that could occur around that. Potentially that's what they're banking on. A couple other medium compound runners there is our predicted race strategies powered by AWS. So medium, hard, and soft, medium seems to be the way to go for most of the grid, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Husky, Bartu, Kendricks, Husky Gaming, Kendricks in particular, opting for soft to hard or soft to medium. And of course, we're coming around the final corner now to get ready. Of course, everybody trying to work those tires right into the temperature that they want. Definitely a lot tighter of a formation lap pack than we're potentially used to seeing in real life. As here comes Viperize to the line. Of course, is going to line up on that outside. So we'll see how the pole sitter lines up here for race number 1. He's going to line up right straight on. We'll see if anybody gets disqualified here as they attempt to park up. Seems that everybody getting set. Guardian Knight messes up the parking, so he'll lose out in position, as will Oreo. And of course the Haas back there at a rather skewed angle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 red lights. And we're underway here in Brazil. Seemingly a good getaway from Viperize, who's going to immediately move to that left-hand side, block off that move. Big crash behind already. That's Emre already in the wall. But as we make our way through turn 1, it's still Viperize from Breakfast King. Eric comes in 3rd, Stratting in 4th, as it seems to be a rather clean getaway for everybody, except for that Williams, who had a big incident as we go down in turn 1. Alcalakoski looking to make a move around the outside of our Stratting. The Dutchman going at it, but Stratting able to defend. Yellow flag back in sector 2. That's one of the Ferraris. I believe that's for Guardian Knight going wide. But as Bartu is going to... and Bartu, I think, tried to make a move on Husky there. Potentially some contact as Husky, as Alcoholic Husky dropping down the order. So I think that one could be a review for the stewards. unless that was, I'm not sure entirely if that was contact. That'll be something that I will have to keep an eye on. But as we come across lap 1, it's 7/10 up at the front between Viperize back to Breakfast King. And the field already starting to spread out a little bit. Oreo and Husky Gaming battling out of the final corner down there for 13th, but it's an 8/10 gap as we cross the line. DRS, though, is activated now on lap number 1, so Viperize still has a lot of work to do if he wants to try and start to make a breakaway from Breakfast King and Eric. But those front three starting to make a getaway from our Stratting already as he's being hounded now by the soft tire runners. That's Chimp Pimp gone deep at turn 1. So that's what those yellow flags are for. Bartu, meanwhile, able to slide past our Stratting and move up in the P4 on those soft compound tires and potentially go back after the leaders. But already we're seeing a couple of packs start to form. First to third starting to make a bit of a breakaway. Fourth down to 7th have started a little bit of a breakaway of their own as Kendricks and Calvary battle side by side. The Ferrari's looking to stick it around the outside. Kendricks, though, able to defend. Husky and Speedy Gunner battling side by side. The Red Bulls going at it as Husky tries to make a bit of a comeback despite sliding wide up at, I believe that was turn number 6 on lap 1. But here on lap number 2, back up at the front, 6/10 the gap between Viperize and Breakfast King. DRS, though, gonna open up on the rear wing of that McLaren. And so that will allow him to close that gap. And so it's keeping, Breakfast King keeping Viperize honest here in the early stages and is going to take, at least for the moment, the fastest lap of the race. Here they come, though, down into turn number 3, 3/10 the gap behind to Breakfast King. How much ERS will he choose to dump here? Not a lot, seemingly, as he'll just hold behind for the moment. Emre already diving into the pits, so probably some damage on that car. Bartu starting to make a bit of a breakaway from Stratting, who's now having to defend from Kendricks. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, Detchal has the 2 Red Bulls chasing him. Of course, Husky starting to make a bit of a breakaway, but Speedy Gunner doing something, trying to do what he can there. Guardian Knight going wide down at turn number 4. And so he'll drop back behind the rest of the field. But here at lap number 3, again, it really is now a 3-car breakaway here at the front. Bartu, I think, with a little bit of a mistake, now having to defend a little bit from our Stratting behind him as those mediums start to come up. The temperature is going to be very tight here, but already a 3.5-second gap between Bartu and P4 and Stratting and P5. Stratting not going to hold on a contact there between the Williams and the Aston Martin. So the Williams getting a little dangerous there. He is going to try to tuck in behind the Aston Martin, potentially try to recap some DRS, though a little bit of lag there is going to lead to some desync there, but seemingly all okay. But this battle up at the front, could that allow Ditchall and Alcoholic Husky to make a run back? Formula Jonah up in the points. He's in 10th. Stratting and Bartu side by side as they make their way through turn 4, and Bartu forced wide. He rejoins side by side with Kendricks. He's going to push up the hill and is potentially looking at a move to the inside of Stratting for a second. Kendricks put offline. Here comes Calvary down the inside. He's going to look down the inside, and Kendricks gets tagged in that incident. So he'll drop down into P9 and is now having to battle with Formula Jonah, who may get another spot. Kendricks, though, able to hold on to the position for the moment. Ditchall and Husky now in this fight as well, but we'll jump up to that battle for the front. Eric now starting to get all over the back of Breakfast King as they now make their way run down into turn number 1. Once again, our Stratting 4.3 seconds back, but has started to make a bit of a breakaway. He has broken DRS with Calvary behind him. So we'll see how that goes. Ditchall getting across ahead of Bartu. That is a V-carb in the wall. That was Ditchall. He's got no front wing. What happened there? I don't know if that was an incident with Calvary or Bartu, because I don't think it was with Husky, because he seemed to be a little bit further behind. But yeah, this, is, very tight, and I think a couple of these drivers not very happy with how this Williams is driving. I'm not sure what happened there, but Ditchall, no front wing, and that's going to lose him loads of time, but will promote a bunch of people up a position as Ditchall dropping all the way down to 14th. So that's really a shame because he was having a rather strong race there. We'll jump back up to this 3-way battle for the lead. Viperize just kind of towing Breakfast King and Eric along. as of right now, and I think, Breakfast King and Eric, particularly, are content to just kind of sit back behind. Meanwhile, we'll jump back to that battle for P5 as here they come. 10th and a half between Bartu and Calverley as they run down into turn 1. It will be the Williams with the advantage, but if the Ferrari does have the inside braking into turn 1, is going to pull slightly ahead of that Williams as they make their way down the hill. But can he hold on to it as we make our way in the run down to turn 4? The rear wing once again open on that Williams. The Ferrari half defends the inside, but Bartu wants to go that way. He'll get ahead. He is going to push the Ferrari wide, and I think went off track there to potentially complete that overtake, so we'll see if that goes to review. But Alcohol Kusky also pulling up to the fight. A little bit wide, though, from the Red Bull. Potentially a little bit of contact there between the Ferrari and the Williams, who is looking a little bit skatey. But that just is going to keep allowing Viperize, Breakfast King, and Eric to make a bit of a getaway. It's now 6 seconds, the gap back to R Stratting, as Rasta gets a 10-second penalty there for corner cutting. So that's probably the end of this race, as Viperize has disconnected from the session. So if you'll excuse me for a second, I will do what I can to get him back. If you'll excuse me for 1 second, of course we'll try and keep an eye on that fight in the background. But hopefully we can get him back in, as he was absolutely flying early on in that race. So now Breakfast King will take the lead. Viperize, I did just send you that invite. I'll send you another one just to be safe. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Try and make sure you can get back in, but you will lose that lead. But I had a lot of pace there, and there still could be a lot to come. So yeah, definitely try to get back in there. Cavalry and Bartu, meanwhile, battling side by side. The Williams look to maybe try and get a bit of a cutback there. Viperize, hopefully you can get back in. But yeah, now that gap, of course, is going to be coming down rather quickly between R Stratting and his teammate. Eric, meanwhile, takes the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix now as they make their way through the end of Sector 2. Viperize, I don't know if you got back in or if you can still hear me. But I did send you that invite, so hopefully we'll see you back in the lobby. As we do have Viperize back, so he is going to lose about 2 seconds to those cars in front, but we'll see how much they continue to battle. And could R Stratting potentially come into play here, being now only 4 seconds back? Alcoholic Husky looking to go around the outside of Bartu in Sector 3 there, not able to get anything done. Thought we potentially had an incident behind, but turns out we did not. But Speedy Gunner, those hards potentially really coming into form now. Viperize also is now back in the session as Eric and Breakfast King swap spots once again, but it's a 2.5 second gap up ahead for Viperize to now close. Cavalry still having to defend from Bartu now, as we are right at that point where the softs potentially starting to fall off. Speedy Gunner making a move on his teammate of Alcoholic Husky, so Speedy potentially thinking that those hards are right where he wants them, and Alcoholic Husky, I think, starting to potentially struggle with tire temps, as he's now lost a position to Formula Jonah, as well as we make our way through Sector 2, so potentially struggles coming for at least one of the Red Bulls, even if the other is starting to find traction with his race. And all back up at the front, it's Eric here on lap number 9, retaking that lead with the assistance of DRS. 2.2 seconds, 2.3 seconds is the back gap, and Husky, 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so that's not what you want to see at this point in the race. Of course, potentially we'll have a safety car for a chance, for the opportunity to serve that, as actually I think Alcoholic Husky with front wing damage, was that potentially caused by his teammate? Of course, he'll come out, actually I apologize, that was not due to damage from his teammate. That was just the Red Bull having the earlier pit box as I was looking down below. But Eric now starting to make a little bit of a breakaway from the McLaren of Breakfast King up at the front. 0.6 is the gap, though of course how much of that could be due to dirty air. But of course that is going to allow Viperize to continue to close the gap down to 1.8 seconds, and he's still pulling away from his teammate of R Stratting. Another thing to consider will be fuel throughout this race, as Brazil will consume a little bit more fuel than you might expect if you do go, or if we continue to stay green. We'll, of course, wait to see on that. And of course, we got this battle at 4-6. Here comes Speedy looking to make a move here on bar 2. He's going to be in a bit of a DRS train here. Going to hold back, though, as they break into turn number 1. Of course, up here at the front, Breakfast King continuing to keep Eric honest, but he has led for a whole lap now. Speedy able to get past bar 2, who's actually going to make a push to stay ahead. Formula Jonah there in the background. They're going to be side by side into turn number 4. Speedy going to be a little bit up on the curb, a little bit of ghosting there as well. So will bar 2 hold on to that position as it stands? So still ghosted is Speedy Gunner, and a big twitch there from the Williams, so he'll have to slot in back behind Speedy Gunner, who jumps up into P6. But of course, here on lap number 10, it's definitely been an up-and-down race, led for a lot of the early part by Viperize, who currently sits third after having a brief connection issue and losing a decent chunk of time. But now it's Eric, Too Fast For You, and Breakfast King going at it up here at the front. As we come to the end of lap number 10, bar 2 in the grass, so Formula Jonah, Oreo Hafrican gaining a couple of places. Here comes Husky Gaming and Brian Vanderberg as a bit of an unsafe rejoin there from the Williams, but he'll drop all the way to 11th. We'll see if he dives into the pit lane here. He will dive in to get rid of those soft compound tires. Will he get that car stopped? He will not. That's another 10-second time penalty for bar 2. And so now he and Husky both with that dishonor, and then Rastamol as well with one. Actually, Breakfast King there running a little bit wide and onto the grass. Viperize, though, continuing to close that gap, now down to a second and a half. It was 1.8 seconds about 2 laps ago as Kendrick sets a new fast lap of the race. So 1:10.1 on a fresh set of medium compound tires. As we could see, Alcoholic Husky now going to the end on those hards. We could see Kendricks. I could see Kendricks doing potentially a 2-stop from here. All those hards. Brian Vanderberg and Husky Gaming side by side. Husky Gaming actually with a bit of a mistake there. So is that another issue of tires getting potentially really warm? If you look down at that, I could catch a glimpse of it in that wheel. 232 degrees Fahrenheit are those rear tires. As Emre out of the session, that will bring out the safety car. Almost terrible timing for Eric and Breakfast King, but that will close that pack right up. Emre is gonna looks to have parked up. No, he looks to have just made a mistake there coming out of the pit lane, and does seem to have caused a safety car. So let's see what the decisions are here. Oreo dives in. Brian Husky. Will Dechal dive in? Of course, everybody will have a chance at a free stop here. Here comes Dechal. Alcoholic Husky staying out. Of course, he'll have another lap still to decide whether he wants to come in and serve that 10-second time penalty, or stay out for the rest of the race. Rastamol will have the same option, but Guardian Knight bar 2 will come and serve that time penalty, so he'll lose some time there. Guardian Knight dives in. Here comes Rastamol to serve his 10-second penalty. Will he get another? No, he will not. And Chimp Pimp as well dives in. So it'll be and it seems among those 2 boxes, mediums and hards are the order. Mediums can definitely last the remaining 24 laps of this race. So let's see what the decisions are. It will be the leader of Eric diving in. Breakfast King will follow, as will Viperize. R-Stratting, I think, holding that pack up to make sure he doesn't double stack with his teammate or violate Delta. He'll dive in. Here comes Calvary, Speedy Gunner, and Formula Jonah as well. And so all of the front runners opting to dive into the pits, and it's good stops for everybody on the order. Viperize, I think, almost getting a jump there on Breakfast King, but it's hards for the front 3. Stratting will dive in. He's looking for hards as well. A little bit of a slow stop there from the Aston Martin garage. Formula Jonah will pull out slightly ahead of him, but Stratting is going to hold on to position from Calverley. Speedy Gunner. Formula Jonah will slot in P7. And as they come back out, they will come on back to the safety car, and Rastamol with a drive-through for speeding under safety car. So a day goes bad to worse for the Haas, as he's already down there in 16th and now has that drive-through to serve. Kendricks, meanwhile, dives into the pits now. Alcoholic Husky opts to stay out, so he potentially thinks that that track position is going to be more valuable, and that he'll have another chance to serve that time penalty, or have it removed if he doesn't intend to serve it by the end of this race. So Of course, this does give us a chance as well to take a look at not the penalties, but the position changes throughout the order. Of course, up there at the front, the big ones, Eric up 2, Viperize down 2. That's been the big story up at the front. But a couple other really good performers. Speedy Gunner up 8 spots, Formula Jonah up 6, Brian Vanderberg up 7 after starting from 17th. So a couple of good races there. A couple of big losers. Bartu Kulikan down 9. Kendrick's down 6 after pitting a little bit later than everybody else. But I think just wanting that newer rubber. And then nobody else really losing more than 4 or 5. Of course, a couple losing out, but boxing off of those softs just before that safety car came out. Yeah, Viperize saying he was doing so good and then lined out. Yeah, I think that's certainly fair. I don't think that it was... that you were necessarily doing poorly either. Once you returned either, that gap was continuing to come down almost all the time. It was kind of hovering around that 2.5 mark as the safety car came out. But even, but I think it's really going to come down to Eric, Breakfast King, and Viperize. So now our Stratting is back up in the pack. Cavalry is back up in the pack. Speedy Gunner, highest up there on a medium set of tires. And he's going to be on very fresh medium compound tires as well. We're likely to see another lap under safety car here as we're waiting for Rasta and Bartu to come around. Bartu, I believe, will be last on the grid. Viperize does have a storm, so he may lose power. He may lose power. I don't know if that makes you Thor, or I don't know what the Irish version of Thor is, but I assume that's what happens when you lose power. But we'll have to see if we get back underway on this lap, coming up to that Sector 2 timing marker. I don't know if we'll see it just yet. Of course, we'll have to wait and see if we do get the trigger here. So it may be a late call depending on when that Williams comes up to the tail of the field. So just any driver listening, be sure to be ready to get back underway. Of course, coming around, and I think we will have one more lap under safety car here, as that Aston Martin safety car will stay out. The Williams of Bartu Kutukalan not able to catch up to the tail of the field in time. So we'll see one more lap, and it will be Alcoholic Husky opting now to dive into the pit lane since we did get that extra lap. So now serve that 10-second time penalty. So Husky now thinking that long-range game and opting to dive in and take that penalty. So now we'll be waiting on the Red Bull to come back around. But, of course, he'll have the freshest tires of the field and, of course, has a fresh set of mediums that can now take him the distance. And, of course, the field only making their way through turn number 4 as of the moment. So definitely keep an eye on Husky on those and Bartu to potentially come through the field, though we'll see if they come to blows at all here on the restart. Of course, I will throw on telemetry briefly, just so that way we get an indication of when we get that going, and that'll be more for my purposes of saying, and here we go. But yeah, of course, waiting for Husky to hustle that Red Bull around. We should get back underway this lap. 17 cars still in the running. And we will go back to green on the start of lap number 16. So it'll be 21 laps to go. Safety car in this lap. So Eric, now the safety car. So we'll see what the choice is. So he's going to try and snake that way, try and keep and get as much heat into those hard compound tires as possible. But yeah, it will be 21 laps to go as we cross the line. As that Aston Martin safety car now fully into the pit lane, so we are just about ready to go racing. So the question now, when does Eric choose to take off? As we now are fully ready, coming up to that safety car line, when will he choose to go? Still holding off, and now we take off. And here we go, back to racing here on lap number 16. It's a good jump for Viperize behind. Viperize immediately looking to make that move on Breakfast King. That was a bold move there from the Aston Martin. The McLaren,
thinking about putting it back around the outside, but just not having the space and having to go off track. Here comes R stratting down the inside, so could both Aston Martins be heading past the McLaren? Breakfast King able to defend, though, and as they make their way into turn number 2, Viperize now back up into P2, but Eric already starting to make a bit of a breakaway. That's R stratting wide there in the background. He's losing a number of positions. Oreo up to 4th, Formula Jonah up to 5th. Somebody's gone round, stratting, and Calvary, and I believe that's the Red Bull of Speedy Gunner, all caught up in an incident. And then big lock up there from Husky. There's a rear lock there that causes that Red Bull to go around. So that's bad to worse for him as well, as he tried to just stay out of the way. But that does leave now Eric and Viperize. It's now a McLaren 3-4 of Breakfast King and Oreo African. The Kick Salvers have come out of a little bit of left field here. And, you know, those green machines have jumped up. Oreo African will jump up into 3rd ahead of Breakfast King, so potentially a little bit of team strategy there as DRS enabled a second and a half gap from Viperize to Oreo, but less than a second between Viperize and Eric, so potentially looking at a two-way fight up there at the front. Stratting and Rostamol dives into the pits. Rostamol, of course, to serve that penalty. Stratting, I think, getting some damage in that incident down at the exit of turns 4 and I guess technically 5 for that second left kink. But already these front couple starting to make a getaway. Kendrick's able to get past Calverley in a run down to turn 4. Here comes DeChal looking to the inside of the Ferrari up the hill. He's going to think better of it, though, and hold off for now. Yeah, quickly, this is becoming, again, another kind of mixed fight. Alcoholic Husky, 3-second time penalty. That's our first track limits penalty that we've seen today, and he's going to go around again. So just bad to worse for the Red Bull, who had some really strong showings early, but I think just got really, really unlucky in that middle chunk of the race, just getting caught up in a couple of incidents. DRS open for Formula Jonah. He's pushing hard to try to catch Breakfast King and Oreo here on lap number 18. Takes a peek to that inside. Chooses not to go, though. And, of course, his teammate of Husky Gaming is right there as well. Good exit, though, out of the Senna S's. Here he comes down the straight in the run down to turn 4. Up in the front, Viperize looks to the outside of Eric too fast, and he retakes the lead here at the halfway mark of this race. Jonah, meanwhile, chooses to hold position. And now will Viperize have the chance to run away as we've lost him again? No, just as he retakes the lead, Viperize immediately drops off. So that weather playing a factor for Viperize. Of course, we'll try to get him back in again, but that's a real shame after a really nice move around the outside. So we'll see if that was just an internet or lost power. Meanwhile, Formula Jonah able to get past Breakfast King in that middle sector. He's up into P4, but that could allow Oreo potentially the chance at a breakaway. But, you know, Jonah very clean through that final sector, but will he have DRS? I don't believe he will. Rostamol with a 3-second time penalty for multiple track limits warnings. I'm still waiting to see if Viperize has lost power. I'll try to invite him once again, but as we run down in turn 1, I can see that McLaren looking to hold off in the background, so it is still the number 12 car of Formula Jonah, holding on to, I believe, that is P4 for the moment. Of course, he's going to defend the inside there as they make the run down into turn number 4. As I tried to invite Viperize, I think he is back, hopefully, quickly here, as I couldn't seem to invite him, but lap number 19, that is starting to allow Eric to make a bit of a breakaway, but it's a second and a half back to Oreo now. And, of course, this midfield here, very tight. Calvary drifting all over the place. Guardian Knight is the next recipient of a 3-second time penalty. Calvary, as well, has to take to that inside there, and it gets a 3-second time penalty. Viperize is back, though. So the Aston Martin driver, hopefully, that's the last issue we'll see. He's going to defend the inside from Breakfast King, who's going to jerk back to the racing line. But now it's a different four-way fight here, and it's for P3 now. And up front, Eric starting to make a bit of a breakaway for himself. Viperize is not back yet. Okay, your car was not ghosted, so that I wasn't sure about that. Let me try and get you again. Or at least you weren't ghosted on my screen, so one moment. It won't let you take control So hopefully that's not a continued issue and you can leave and come back. Formula Jonah, 3-second time penalty. Kendrick's out of the race, and we have another safety car. So an incident there for Kendricks. I think contact in the run to turn 4, leading to an issue that leads Kendricks to be out of the race. Alcoholic Husky with another 3-second time penalty, I think just as he was trying to slow the car down. Of course, that does help Viperize, who will see if he can leave and rejoin and come back. I don't know if you are back in the lobby or not, but of course, as it stands, Alpine currently P1, but then you got the McLaren second and third, the Kick Sauber in fourth, and then Viperize, of course. Husky Gaming in sixth, Calvary, Brian, Bartu, and Detri are your top 10. Oh, and that's a big damage for DeChal as well. So was he potentially caught up in that incident with Kendricks, and is that why he no longer has a front wing? Eric opts to dive into the pits. Oreo stays out. Breakfast King dives into the pits. Both Kicks stay out. Will anybody else dive into the pits? Brian, of course, will. Bartu will. He's going to have to slow it right down, and actually he's going to tap the V-car behind him. Viperize is now, it's showing as you are back, so hopefully you can take control. Your car, of course, has stayed out, which hopefully was what you were... Viperize actually would have pit from this position, so against the strategy that he would have hoped for, but a number of drivers down towards the bottom of the field opting to dive in. Alcoholic Husky electing to stay out. He'll move up into P6, but of course on those old tires, and he'll be the leader on those old tires. Of course, we'll take... this is my first time commentating in a little bit, so voice is a little bit scratchy there, as it does look like Viperize, you are hopefully back, as once again you are not ghosted and seem to be keeping a solid pace. So I'm just trying to listen in. Yeah, we do have Viperize back, as we can tell from that short shift, so that's good to see. So 15 laps to go once we cross the line, and complete 21 of the 36 laps. Should have one more under safety car, and hopefully that will be the last that we see under safety car. As Viperize has once again left the session. So once again, he is not here. So still trying to get him back in. He's not getting the lights. So I don't know if that's a restart thing. If it's showing you as you have taken control of the car, I would just wait. And hopefully that works. That would be the best thing that I would recommend. Oreo African, meanwhile, has moved up into P1, which puts Jonah second, Viperize third, followed by Husky Calvary, Husky, Alcoholic Husky, Eric. Breakfast King dropped down to 8, so potentially a mistake there from him. Actually, no, he jumped in for fresh tires. It's Husky and Calvary swapping places again. I think Calvary potentially just like trying to, some position issue based on everybody checking up there. Yeah, Viperize, it was showing your car is not ghosted, so I feel like the best, as Bartu has now left the session. So we've lost Bartu Kutulikan. I do not have added, so I do not know if I can get him back in. Was that damage on the Williams car, as he is now ghosted? As we did see a little bit of a jump there. Let's see, is Viperize back? Viperize is back, as we can see that car weaving, so that is good to see. Will we get a late safety car in, though, as of this lap? Of course, Oreo sitting nice in P1. Formula Jonah, a great race to get up into P2 with the owner and LSR co-founder sitting there. And, of course, we will not get underway on this lap. So we'll still have to wait and see what happens here. But, of course, still a lot of racing left to go and a couple of different strategies throughout the order. Can Oreo, Jonah, or Viperize make enough of a getaway from the likes of Eric, the likes of Breakfast King, the likes of Brian on those softs? Will we see somebody else a little bit further down the order potentially have a run at some of those cars more towards the front of the pack? I think that'll certainly be interesting to pay attention to and keep an eye on. Of course, now that we're at the 2/3 mark, I think it's also worth taking a look at that position changes once again. I think if you're looking at a driver of the day right now, it's either Oreo Hafrigan or Formula Joan up 10 and 11 spots respectively. Now, I think another driver to keep an eye on, Brian Vandenberg, very solid race. He's up 8 spots, and he's pit for fresh, soft tires. So could we see that V-card, currently sitting in 9th, potentially jump even further up the field as we get into the final stages of this race? Of course, it will be 13 laps to go as we cross the line here. So Oreo keeping a bit of a hotter pace than we saw Eric keep just a lap ago, potentially wanting to get this back underway very quickly. Bartu Kutukalan is back with a safety car now in the pits, so now it's up to Oreo to choose when he opts to go. Let's see when the American chooses to take off, and we are back underway and racing here in Brazil. Start of lap number 24, and it's Oreo leading the field across the line. Viperize once again looking at the inside, hard braking into turn 1, and once again Viperize able to get the move done on the safety car restart to slide back up into P2. He is going to have to take a little bit of an off-track action there, as he seemed to get a little bit understeer. Is he struggling with tech issues maybe? As we just saw him into the grass. So I don't know if that's just tech issues or if it's just cold tires there and not getting the bite that he thinks, or just checking stuff. But hopefully Viperize is still okay. Yellow flag, that's Detchall out of the session, and that's going to bring out another safety car. That's down at turn 4. And once again, back to the safety car we go. So once again, it'll be interesting to see what the strategy picks are during this race. But of course, definitely disappointing to see another safety car. It was a great move by Viperize into turn 1, though. On a lot of respect shown between Viperize and Jonah in that instance. Let's see, it looks like everybody opting to stay out on their current set of tires. The Aspen of Arstrading opts to dive in. Speedy Gunner will as well. And so those will be the only two to dive in for fresh sets of rubber. So hopefully we should get back underway on this next lap. So we'll get underway either lap 26, at the start of lap 26, or the start of lap number 27. But it will be Stratting and Speedy Gunner pulling up the end of the field now. Yeah, Detchall, of course, leaving the session after having that DNF there. Of course, coming up the hill through Sector 2. Let's see if we do get back underway on this lap. Of course, a lot of cars' tires going to be ice cold now, as they didn't have the chance to heat them up before the safety car came out. So there's really no way for them to have any tire heat. So, of course, taking a quick look at that. Actually, no, we want to look at the leader gap, and we look at tires. So, Oreo potentially in the best spot on those mediums, especially of the older tire runners. Alcoholic Husky as well, going to have a decent shot. And the second safety car, I think, really killing the chances of those soft tire runners, of Brian, especially, or of Brian particularly, as those softs really going to fall off once you get later on in that race. And it looks like we are going to get at least one full lap under safety car, with the entire field lined up behind it before we get back underway. And hopefully then we can get these last 10 laps of racing incident-free. Of course, we're still waiting to get back rolling. Of course, if you're in chat and not driving, just spectating, and have any predictions that you'd like to voice, definitely would love to hear that. Definitely be interesting, especially if you have an outside pick at a potential race winner for the first race here in Season 8 of Group 2. Viper is saying him not P1 is he'll probably lag out again. Hopefully not. Hopefully we see some good racing for the remainder of this race, as well as no tech issues of which to speak of. And actually, we'll jump to the interval here as we get ready to get back underway. So, of course, Oreo, as we cross that Sector 2 timing marker, will have control of the field once again. So that entire field is going to line up behind the McLaren as we get ready to go racing once again. So, of course, fuel as well, not going to be an issue for everybody, now that we've had 3 safety cars to manage that. So Oreo, once again, looking to keep that pace rather hot. Viperize right up on his gearbox, though, is taking that peak to the outside immediately. We've seen Viperize make 2 moves down the inside into turn 1. So when does Oreo opt to take off? 2 by 2 already. And when will Oreo go? Here we go, racing once again here on lap number 26, and it's a really good jump for Viperize. And we have a crash even before the safety car is done. But it is going to be Viperize and Oreo side by side. I think a little bit of contact there. I have no idea what happened there, but that was disappointing. It does not look like we'll get another safety car, but I don't know what that was. Apart from a shame that we could not even get back going. I still have the safety cars showing, though it seems that we are fully back racing now. It seems that it is just a caution. We were just waiting for Calvary's AI to get back racing. Our Stratting receives a time penalty for multiple warnings. But yeah, I don't know what that was. Brian Vanderberg trying to make a jump up the order. He's up into 6th now. Oreo down to 8th after potentially getting tagged by Viperize. More contact there. Is that Stratting getting tagged? And there was some lag there as well. But is that going to allow Viperize to try and start to make a getaway? That will certainly come to review. Our Stratting out of the race, so that's another retirement. But now Viperize starting to make a bit of a getaway, but of course Eric going to be charging on those fresher mediums, as will Breakfast King. Viperize, I'm not 100% sure if that was your fault or not. I didn't get a good view. I was more trying to figure out what was happening behind. To figure out if that was the case. It seemed, as a lot of anger in chat over what happened on that restart. Oreo with a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting, and frankly, I think I would have to see both Viperize's and Oreo's perspective on how that incident went down. But Guardian Knight now dropping down the order. But yeah, I'm a little bit speechless after that safety car restart. I'm going to be if I'm being completely honest. So let's see if Viperize can hold on. It seems to be 4 cars in, and now Eric getting past Formula Jonah. Here comes Breakfast King as well. And so it's the Alpine and McLaren making that jump up places. And now it's, less than a second in between it for 4 cars with 7 laps to go. But yeah, here comes Eric, of course, down the inside of Viperize. Viperize still there, a little bit of contact though, and Viperize and Eric still side by side as they make their way through Sector 2. Is Eric going to be able to hold on to this? Sweeps around the outside, some good respect shown there, as Brian Vanderberg has left the session, so that's a DNF from him as well. So it looks to be Viperize and Breakfast King, a little bit of contact there. Viperize now holding the inside. There goes Breakfast King. Eric as well, a little bit boxed in. He's going to jerk to the inside. Oreo now going to defend. And the Alpine hard on the brakes. Viperize into the back of him, so potentially damage on that Aston Martin as Viperize receives a 3-second time penalty for track limits warnings. But yeah, of course, Breakfast King now starting to make a bit of a getaway here. 5 laps to go as we cross the line. 8/10 is the gap from Breakfast King back to Eric. R-Stratting still in the mix. Formula Jonah still in the mix, but they've all made a bit of a breakaway from Bar2 back there and P5, who has made a decent recovery drive after disconnecting. But yeah, I mean, the good news, at least for a lot of this race, was that for the most part, there wasn't stuff that seemed too heinous. It seemed to be, largely more tight racing as Eric down the inside of Breakfast King, down through turn number 5. A little bit of contact there, but I think that's going to happen through that section as the Alpine moves up into the lead with 5 to go. But 4/10's the gap, so it seems to be just the McLaren and the Alpine in it now, as Breakfast King looking to not hesitate at all. Of course, we'll swap to the penalty marker, but yeah, it does seem to be just Eric and Breakfast King now. Here comes Bar2 into the party now as well. Formula Jonah looking down the inside, I think made a little bit of contact with the McLaren, and then a little bit of a lockup from the Alpine, just trying to hold on to it. Bar2 has shown up as well. Formula Jonah, I think, had to try and back out of that. But of course, as they come through turn 4, it's Breakfast King still with the lead from Viperize, Eric, and then Bar2 behind. Oreo, meanwhile, gets another 3-second time penalty for track limit, so a bit of a struggle there after the incident with Viperize on that restart, which of course will be up to review. But of course, as they make their way down the pit lane, it's still Breakfast King with that lead. He's got Viperize down his inside now. Viperize looking to make that move stick in the inside into the Senna S's. But it's going to be Breakfast King getting a better exit. Eric right on his rear now. Of course, Bartu is there as well. Bartu, the Williams looking down the inside of everybody. Viperize going down the outside, 2x2 into turn 4. Contact there between Viperize, the Alpine into the back of Eric. I think just trying to get out of the way. Viperize is in the wall. But yeah, that was, 4 cars within 2/10 of each other. That's just not going to stick, and Viperize drops right down the order. But yeah, start of the last lap. It is going to be Bartu with the lead. Can Breakfast King do anything? Or no, 2 laps ago, sorry. As I was a bit further back. But yeah, it seems to be down to just a couple of drivers. Bartu, Breakfast King, Formula Jonah, and Eric. All still in with a chance. It's going to be Bartu leading the way as we make it the run up the hill here on lap number 35. Of course, Formula Jonah definitely the odd one out in that pack, having that 3-second penalty. Of course, Brian is back there. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, 1 lap to go, and now it does seem to be down to just Bartu and Breakfast King. Of course, DRS going to be available for the McLaren as we start the final lap of this race. So we'll have to see how much gamesmanship we see here on this final lap. So that gap's got to be a couple of tenths. Bit of a block there from Bartu as they make their way into turn number 1. The McLaren, though, looking around the outside. Does he think he wants to try and hold that position this entire lap? Try and give Bartu as much dirty air as he possibly can, but it's the Williams with DRS. Bartu, though, looking down the inside as they run into turn 4, so it's the Williams with the advantage now. So it'll be a question of, does Breakfast King have enough time to make that move stick in response? Of course, he's right on the back of that Williams as they make their way up the hill here. Bit of ghosting there from Bartu. So will Breakfast King try to take advantage of it? They are very much, they are inside of each other as of right now. So can Bartu pull away? He will, but the McLaren going to be right on the gearbox. Will he have enough time to make that move? Out of the final corner we come. So it's going to be a run to the line. It's going to be a drag race here, but of course Breakfast King going to have the advantage. 10.5 is the gap. DRS now open for the McLaren. Can he get side by side and pass around the outside to the line? It's going to be Breakfast King taking the win here in Brazil by 0.03 of a second. Bartu third, Eric, Formula Jonah, Speedy will be next, followed by Viperize. Husky Gaming will then come in 7th. Oreo should be 9th, depending on if Guardian can finish well enough, and he will, followed by Chimp Pimp and Rastimal rounding out your top 10. So certainly a chaotic race, but we should hopefully see some cleaner racing next time out in Portugal next weekend. Hopefully you'll join us. Of course, congratulations to Breakfast King on getting that win, and of course I'll try to give you an update on Stewards Review as to what went down in the ending stages of that race. And the Stewards definitely going to have the work cut out for them. Bartu gets driver of the day, but it's the McLaren taking the win. But yeah, there of course is your top 10. Less than a 10, less than half 10th in it between the top 2 tenths in it between the top 3. Fastest lap, of course, would have gone to Kendrick with that 1:10.1, as he did not finish and finished out of the points. Does not take it. So, of course, congratulations to Breakfast King, and we will see you next week.